Good morning, and welcome to Deep Waves Transformation, where we dive deep into the realms of mental health, trauma recovery, narcissistic abuse recovery, toxic love relationships, and more. I am your host, Tasha Day, and I am here to guide you through this journey of awareness and healing. Today we have Sylvia Salcedo with us to discuss mental health and the effects of trauma. She is based out of Crested Butte, Colorado. She is a certified acupuncturist, along with being a microdosing coach and psychedelic facilitator. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm so good, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to
Absolutely. Thank you for taking
connecting.
the time.
Yeah.
Well, let's just jump right in, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind sharing your own personal mental health slash trauma journey with us?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what's interesting is I've thought about this quite a bit. Being a psychedelic facilitator and working in in those realms that I do, most often it requires that we've had our own personal journey,
Sure.
so that we can have that empathy and really understand how trauma affects us and being able to understand the different patterns of trauma. I didn't actually know I had what trauma I was in until much later in my life. It was almost like a frog that was in boiling water. It was just I was just living in it. And that's just my reality, especially when you're really young. You're just like, oh, this is just what it is. It
Right.
wasn't until I was getting out of a 17-year toxic marriage where I really began to start looking at, like, wait a minute, why am I in these patterns and why are these patterns continually to show up? So I started to do my own personal psychedelic work. I started really diving into personal development and spirituality and understanding, like, oh, actually, I had a lot of abuse when I was growing up. And it was talked about as being really disciplined, but it was abuse. It was physical abuse, it was verbal abuse. And then I began to understand that the abuse that I had suffered and at that time, like, I didn't really know what unconditional love was. I really knew what conditional love was. So when I started meeting my partners, I started really getting connected to the love bombing and, like, oh yeah, that means that they love me and this is so great. And so I'd go through these experiences thinking that that was love and that was finally being loved. And then after a period of time, that would not be happening. And I was in these relationships, I was like, not being, not what I wanted. I had infidelity many times, and so I finally was able to get out of that marriage. And through that, just really understood what it was to be married to a narcissist, what unconditional love meant, what was my attachment style, really diving into these different traumas that had been part of my life. And then stepped into using psychedelics as a really powerful tool to help me shift my life. I remember one of my girlfriends that I was really close with, she came up to me. She's like, you need to do this. And I just really trust her. And I'm like, great, what are we doing? And so I went, and it was the first process in these years of work that I began to do to unattach myself from that marriage and be like, you know what? I am worthy of having a man that doesn't cheat on me. I am worthy of having a beautiful, loving relationship. And so I had two young girls at the time, and we moved to Crested Butte and we just started our life again. And that really started so much uncovering and understanding so many layers of my life. And then being able to move through that and finding myself at such a stronger, empowered place because of just being able to see where I have been and be able to release the layers that I've been able to release. And now I live in this place of imagination and excitement and what's coming forth. And it's just this different self-talk that I have. I'm excited about life, and it just feels really good.
I love that. Was there a certain book or video that really got you going in your healing journey?
You know,
'Cause we all crave knowledge, right? When we're hurting so bad, it's like, where do we turn? So where
yeah.
did you turn?
So my initial path went to Gabby Bernstein, and then the Course in Miracles. I also, there was this other gal that was doing, like, you choose your three words, Danielle. I forgot her last name. But then the methodology with the work that I was doing with my mentor in psychedelics, there's an entire beautiful methodology in there. And that's what really has helped to kind of fine tune the work that I've done and really allowed me to land in a methodology that helps me create my identity and helps me create my future.
Right. Because it's super hard to do after you get out of something so toxic, right?
Yeah, first you got to know that you're in something toxic, right? Like you're just
Mm.
living along and you've no idea. You're just like, oh, okay, this is just my reality. And then something happens where you start to just see and you're like, wait a minute, attachment styles? Wait, and I've got an anxious attachment style? Wait a minute.
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
learn about narcissists, and then you learn about
Yeah.
narcissists and then you learn about infidelity and like that whole world that goes with that. You learn about love bombing. So there was so much uncovering. And I learned about, I got really real with what happened to me. Like I never grew up being like I was abused. I was, my mom had a really bad temper and I was disciplined. That's how I was raised at it. But later I was able to be like, no, that was abuse. It was not a healthy way. I didn't receive conditional love or
Right.
unconditional love. So there was so much, there was years there where I was just like uncovering all this amazing wisdom. And then there was years where I was learning about mindsets and actually you can
Right.
shift your mindset and learning how to do that and learning those patterns and how to reprogram them.
What were some idols of yours
Um,
to for the mindset thing?
Gabby Bernstein was a really big one of mine. Like I just really
Okay.
loved. And then there was the Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. She really helped me understand relationships as these powerful tools for growth and learning. And then Armand Batan, who is my mentor, he has been really helpful in, he's been the core in understanding a lot of these belief systems.
Sure. For me, it was Tony Robbins and, believe it or not, Oprah.
Oh yeah, both of
Yeah.
those amazing.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins has such a beautiful, like his inspiration, right? He's so
Yes.
inspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
He
Oprah
definitely
as well.
switched that light on for me, that's for sure. And
Did you
then
go to some of his
Doctor, what's that?
did you go to some of his trainings and did you go to some of his events?
You know what? I actually just missed the one in Florida a couple of weeks ago when I was actually there and didn't know he was there. So
Oh,
I was
really?
super bummed out about that, but I will be going for sure because
Yeah.
he's someone I look up to so much, him and his wife. They're just
She
so.
used to be an acupuncturist.
Oh, did she?
She was. I
I
think
did
when they
not know
first
that.
met, she was an acupuncturist. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, somebody told me about that. Okay, and who
And
else were your people?
Dr. Ramani, she helped me with the narcissistic traits and people and all of that. She is so smart.
Wait,
Definitely look her up.
why are we not learning this in kindergarten? Like then like wait a minute. This is who we need this is the elementary education that we need to be having.
Well, because
Right?
I feel like psychology has developed so much today that there's just more information for us to learn. Back then, we didn't really talk about it or even know what it was.
Yeah.
If we were depressed and we were anxious, we just kind of maybe went to our room and cried about it. We didn't have all these resources that we have today.
It's pretty amazing. Absolutely. Yeah, I do remember, my mom being like, no, I'm not going to therapist. Like, I don't do therapy. And now therapy is so much more accepted and valued.
It is because I feel like people are not so afraid to talk about it anymore
Yeah. You know
because we
what?
realize we all got problems, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Some other big teachers was Bruce Lipton. He did a lot of biology of the mind, and then there's Joe Dispenza. So these are kind of like healthcare. These guys were working in the wellness and health fields, but they have this beautiful concept of really leading our bodies with our mind.
Right. And Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's amazing as
Yeah.
well.
He
Yeah.
was totally one of my initial inspirations.
Yes. Same. I've got all his books. I'm
Oh,
ready
they're
to
so
go.
good.
When you were coming out of this toxic relationship, did you have to do a lot of shadow work?
Yes. And that's kind of where I started to uncover like, oh, what happened in my growing up? What was there?
Right? Because that's where
Help
we
me
have to initially go back to is like the 2-year-old little us, and we have to work from there.
to
That's what I had to do anyways, and it hurts.
It does, but it is such a beautiful process, like to go back and to reparent that little child that never got heard or never got seen. I remember like the first time that I did it, and she was just like she was really young. I would say it was like 18 months when it was one of those first hits that I got, and just seeing her like kind of come up to my chest and hold her and tap her back and like just, yeah, I love doing a lot of that work for myself and then for my clients because it's incredible how powerful the mind is.
It
If we just
really
put
is. People
little
don't
moment,
realize.
yes, if we just put that little moment back, we can change the feeling that's coming forth, the feeling that we're dealing with.
Did you ever write a letter to your past self?
I'm sure I did. I don't know if I have it saved but I feel like I have, or maybe it was in just conversations. And a lot of the conversations was like, it's okay, baby, we got it. Like I was just mothering that little child that needed to be seen or wanted to be seen.
Yeah, for me, that was like probably the hardest shadow work project that I worked on because what I did was posted I had a picture of, I think I was about 8 years old at the time on the beach building a sandcastle, and I had a picture of it. And I set that up right next to my computer with my journal just ready to go. And I literally had to stare at that little girl about to tell her, you're going to go through this. You're going to go through
Mm.
this and it's going to hurt. But I got you at the end of the day and I love you and I'm so proud of you. That was probably the most painful but relieving project that I've ever worked on so far
Oh, I
with my
love that.
recovery.
I love that. It's such an
Yeah.
important one. Work on it a
So I
lot.
definitely recommend that to people is writing a letter to your past self. It
Hmm.
is dark and it's deep, but it needs to be done.
Right? That moment where you can go back to those little moments where you were not seen or where that moment that you remember that you didn't have that love from your mom or that love from your dad or you felt alone. And you get to go back to that little moment and take that little inner child, hold them and let them know
Mhm.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. How how would you say that trauma influences your sense of identity?
That's such a beautiful question. And it's different. So when you're in the trauma, you have a way of speaking to yourself and you have a way of thinking in your belief systems. Then comes that moment where you begin to do the shift, where you begin to get back to your innocence that happened before the trauma. And then your language begins to change and to shift. And so I'm more in that place where that language has changed and that's shifted. I'm much more softer to myself, can catch myself, like much more inspiration. But there is these two, like it's like an infinity line. And in that healing, that inner talk, so different from that place of that healing talk. That trauma place is, there's a lot of negative talk. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of like, I can't do this. And then there's that one moment where you begin to crack that open and you begin to bring that love and that self care back to that being. And then that second part of the healing, the inner talk is different. And it's just the evolution of kind of going back and forth in between that trauma and healing as we evolve as humans. Like another little layer might come up and it'll be softer. It's not as big as the first layers were. Those first 6 months to a year when you're just like blown up, like, holy shit, this is
Mhm.
everything that I've been through. And everything just comes to the surface. I feel like that first 6 months to 1 year is it's intense. A lot of work
It
comes
really
on,
is.
but then it
Yeah.
gets softer and it
Yes.
starts, so I'm like 6 years out now. So I feel like the inner talk is so different. It's gentle.
And do you believe in the power of affirmations?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
These were a big, throughout my whole journey. Those have always been a really big component to what am I saying? What am I calling in? What is that connection to the vibration that I'm bringing in, right? The other day
Right.
I was in a journey. I do these online ketamine journeys with my mentor where we're as facilitators, we're still training. And in that ketamine journey, the scarcity came up. Okay. And so scarcity has been a thing of mine. So scarcity comes up in this journey and I feel it, but I have the consciousness at this moment to choose abundance or scarcity. And it's great because you get to these places where you can actually see yourself like a light. And I'm like, all right, well, do I want to really like focus and lean in the scarcity? Or how about if I pop over here and play more in the energy of abundance? So it was a really cool tool to see it happen and then see the shift and be watching it, watching both sides of that happen.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Have
so
you
fun.
so speaking of fears, Have you
Yeah.
developed any new fears or maybe even phobias
Mhm.
after dealing with all of your trauma, like
I don't think
nightmares and stuff like that?
I have not. I mean, I spent a lot of time in repatterning my fears of self-worth, repatterning my fears of scarcity, repatterning my fears of there was this thing that I like needed a man, like you're programming that, being like, okay, well, actually, I don't need that. That would be like a
Yeah,
luxury bonus, but it's not gonna make me who I am. I think I was
right.
always, oh, once I get to that relationship, then I'll be who I need to be. And then I finally was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any
No.
sense. I actually want to be who I want to be, and then if it comes, we'll match. So along the way, different fears have shown up and have been able to work with them and shift them. So who knows what's going to come up next, but so far things have been moving through the fears.
That's awesome. Do you have any vivid dreams while
I
you're
feel
going through your healing journey? Did you have any?
Yeah, I've had some pretty wild dreams.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one then, because they are vivid and they are loud. And it's
Well,
like, what is my subconscious trying to tell me? And I
well,
cannot come to sense with it.
it's
I'm like, why
sometimes
is it
there's,
still happening? Why am I still seeing these people? Why am I still in these situations? I don't understand it.
sometimes I see that though as like these subconscious popcorn thoughts coming to the surface to be processed subconsciously in your sleep. It's not like a bigger story that needs to kind of come out of the dream. It's like it's in there and it pops up to the surface and it gets to process itself. And that's what they say dreams are. It's like our capacity to process our subconscious mind. So there could be these stories that are buried in there, these different things that are buried in there. And when we dream, they just come to the surface, they percolate, and they're like, okay, cool. So we don't have to necessarily bring them out and make them a bigger meaning because our consciousness is taking care of it. Our
Do you
subconscious.
think in some way it's like unresolved trauma that we still need to work through?
I don't know if it's unresolved, but it could be like a layer that still exists. It could be, what if it's like a vibration in your cellular matrix that's still there? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's unresolved and you have to go excavate it out and pull it out, but it could just be a part of your cellular matrix that still just has that memory in it. And so good job. Like your dreams sound like they're doing an amazing job. They're like doing the work that they need to be doing.
Yeah, but it's terrifying and frustrating at the same time. You wake up thinking like, why?
But see, that's the story you put on it. What if the different story that you put on it is like, oh, great, thank you for taking care of that for me. And then I go have my
Right.
coffee and I move on. So often it's just like, what's the story that we want to put on it? So if you put on the story like, fuck, I still got all this work to do and I'm like, oh, I'm not done yet. Or you can be like, oh my God, thank you, body and mind, for doing the work. And now I'm going to go on with my day because I can go on with my day now because you're taking care of the leftover cellular matrix stuff that needs to be taken care of.
Thank you so much for that, Sylvia. I really appreciate that perspective.
You're
That really
so
did help.
good.
What role do you think trauma has on our body, like internally?
Oh my God. I feel like trauma gets trapped in our cells and they get trapped in our muscles and they get trapped in just the matrix of our bodies, like the somatic part. So
Yeah.
one of those psychedelics that I work with is cannabis. I don't know if you know about cannabis, but it's a psychedelic. Right now in the nation, we use it recreationally or medicinally, but it's a really powerful plant medicine. So what we'll do is we'll bring a group of women together, or, just a group of humans together, and then we'll smoke all of us together the same joint or the same flower mixture.
Uh-huh.
And then we'll put people back into a little pod. So they'll have their eyes covered and they're cozy. They've got, blanket on them, pillow under their head. And then we put a playlist, or I'm doing like sound healing while they're doing it using singing bowls and gongs. But what I'm bringing this up for is it's an incredible somatic release experience. So your body starts to shake. Your body starts to, you might be breathing or you might get cold. When we're in a psychedelic experience, those are some of the ways that we realize that our body's releasing what trauma has stored in our bodies. So it's a shake, it's a shiver, it's the essence of being cold, it's a yawn, or it's a cry, or it's a noise, it's a voice. So I've also done breath work. And so you see that same kind of thing as well. Like there's these somatic releases. And then after the journey, let's say it's like 40 minutes to an hour, like people have this incredible sense of release. Like they've released somatically where the trauma has been blocked in their body. So I really like to kind of loop it in to the psychedelic experience. So like, let's say someone starts with ketamine and then they'll drop in and do MDMA. And then somewhere in there, I'll be like, let's do a cannabis so you can just get that body release. Usually with people who have worked with cannabis and, like cannabis, I'll add one of those because they're incredibly releasing on the somatic level.
Yeah, I was actually looking into seeing a doctor out here that introduces ketamine in her practice as well as a part
Yeah.
of that, what you just described. And I thought it was interesting. So I got educated on it, and I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna go see her. So that's
Great.
why I'm so like curious about this, your whole field. I'm so curious because I've heard such great things about it and how it heals and just kind of realigns our nervous system again and shocks it back into play. Is
Yeah,
that
it's all
true? Yeah.
absolutely. It's all pretty amazing. What I'm really excited about, I feel like I was kind of meant to be on this plan because of my past and because of the trauma and because of the things. Like it just landed me to these powerful tools that create change extremely rapid, much faster than I think some other of the tools are. So it's really amazing to have somebody come into a session and be able to just shift the way that they're feeling. So what I'd like to share is maybe let's start talking about the different psychedelics and how you can experience them.
Let's
So
do it.
ketamine, for instance, I really love ketamine. Ketamine is a great nervous system reset. So I feel like in our society we are run, run, run. We're constantly going. We've had a lot of baggage and a lot of trauma. So ketamine is really powerful to reset our nervous system. Who are we underneath the fight or flight? Who are we underneath the belief systems that have come from trauma? Who
Right.
are we underneath all of it? So ketamine is such a powerful tool to get us back to our core and back to who we are at our most natural state. Okay. Then you can jump into something, let's say MDMA. MDMA is a powerful heart medicine. MDMA allows us to feel safe again in our being. And that's where imagination starts to come from, is our heart. So if we can begin to feel safe and we begin to flex our imagination, then we begin to co-create our lives and where we're going. So it's a very inspirational medicine. It allows you kind of see the past where you've been and allows you to like step into the excitement and the inspiration of what you want to create. It gives you a lot of agency. Psilocybin, I would like to call it a little rowdy. Psilocybin, like you're not really sure what you're going to get unless you're microdosing. It's definitely at much lower levels. But with psilocybin, you're going to go in and it's a dance in between excavating like heavy emotions or big feelings and this dance in between the energy of your spirit, who you are before all of that trauma happened. So it's really a beautiful dance in between clearing out and stepping into your spirit essence. And then the other one is ayahuasca, which I would say is like psilocybin, but more intense. You're really getting into these bigger levels of clearing out and intergenerational stuff. And you can do that inside psilocybin too, but bigger essence of spirit, really powerful. Then you can go into iboga, which is even bigger, I think, than ayahuasca. Those journeys are like 24 hours. They've seen pretty amazing results with iboga for addiction, like real serious addictions. Then you got Compo. Compo is used to help detox the body. I've never done that one, but that's a frog serum that they use that they burn on the skin to help detox the system. Another one is DMT, which comes from a frog as well. And you smoke that one. And that one is quite intense. I've done it one time. I don't think I'm going to go back to that one again. I kind of like found the ones that I resonate
That
with.
worked for you. Yeah.
That worked for me, exactly. But
For
DMT,
sure.
I know a lot of people that have used it and that have had really powerful experiences with that. But where I've landed for myself is microdosing. So that's low levels of psilocybin on a, regular basis. The ketamine to work with clients and the MDMA to work with clients.
Do any of these take you out of body?
DMT is going to take you out of body. Ayahuasca will take you out of body. Psilocybin might. MDMA is going to drop you into your heart. And ketamine is going to be a little bit more mind and body. Ketamine is a lot faster, which is nice. Let's say ketamine journeys, they can last between 40 minutes to an hour and a half, right? Whereas ayahuasca is like 8 to 12 hours. So what's nice about ketamine is you can learn how to go in, alter your mind, work with what's coming up to the surface, and you're going to be out and you can go make dinner and you can be a mom and do all the things you need to do. So I do like it because it's a quick way to jump into that altered state of consciousness. MDMA, what I like about that, and that's different, is that that's a little bit longer. Those sessions are about 5 hours, but there's total communication. Ketamine, psilocybin, ayahuasca are all like your eyes are covered and you're in your own little space, whereas MDMA is really about connecting. And you can make these amazing like life shift connections quite rapidly, and they stick. And it's all in dialogue. It's all in in community and in communication, which I really enjoy.
Wow. So how would somebody get involved in this community?
So there are a variety of different therapists. It's pretty incredible how much this is like coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different prestigious universities that are now doing research. So you've got Harvard, you got UCLA, you got Penn State. Like a lot of these big universities all have psychedelic departments in there where they're doing a lot of research on it. The states are now starting to change. So I live in Colorado, and in 2025, we have a whole new regulation coming on board of different practitioners that are going to be allowed to work in the psychedelic field. And Oregon now has that as well. California is coming behind. So like we saw in the cannabis industry, it's coming forward now with the psychedelics. It's going to be a little sticky in the beginning and trying to figure out the parts and pieces, but there's these states that are really making these preliminary foundations of what this looks like.
Wow. Do you think that they're going to target specific people first to try it? Like military members, do you think, for
Um,
PTSD?
so they have had the training with MDMA. They've done a lot of the tests with veterans. They were the first ones that they try to push through to get the MDMA passed. But unfortunately, it hasn't been officially passed to the highest level yet. They're still working on it. But
Okay.
yeah, veterans have definitely been a place where they've really wanted to do some of that work.
Okay. I was just kind of wondering if that's where they would start or.
They did. Why do you say that? Because that's interesting. They did.
I have been in relationships with 3 men that have all been
Okay.
in the military, and they all suffer with PTSD and they're crazy. So that's why I asked if they're going to get the help first before us normal, I guess you could say.
That's so
I
funny.
don't.
So the MDMA was completely driven on veterans with PTSD because they were like, well, that part of the society really needs it. So let's do these studies and we'll try to get MDMA through the FDA protocols, but focusing on veterans. But what ended up happening is kind of tricky because one of the things that came up was that there was some misconduct in the studies. And so that was an issue that they needed to figure out. Another area came up was that you can't really do a double-blind study with MDMA because when you're on MDMA, you know that you're on MDMA. It's not like a placebo where you're like, no, I don't really think I am. So that was a little thing that they came up with. So I think they're kind of going back and trying to figure out what that next, how to keep on going and what they'll do with that.
Wow. Yeah, I was just curious if that's where they were going to start.
They
What your
totally
opinion?
did.
How do you think that your specific trauma has affected relationships with others around you in your personal life?
So, I had a really rocky relationship with my mom that I've been trying to like heal and work through, and it goes through periods where it gets stronger and other periods where I get triggered again. Like that's probably one of the most toughest relationships for me is kind of figuring that out and working with that. So, but then
So
for
when
me,
these triggers do come up, how do you deal with those?
I talk to my mind and I do some breath work and then I remove myself and then I spend some time away and then I might go back and I might get triggered again. That that relationship is the biggest dance for me in all of this. Because I
Same.
actually really love my mom too. Like there's parts that I totally love and then there's all of this trauma there. So it is the hardest relationship for me to this day. And I go in and out of it. There'll be good days and there are going to be bad days.
Same. Yeah, it's super hard. Do you find it hard to trust people after the fact?
That's a good, interesting question. I wonder if I've become more, I do keep my walls pretty tight. I have two young children and I work. And so I feel like a lot of my energy goes to like keeping that a ship. And maybe that is because like I haven't had this like sense of deep security where I can kind of just relax. There is like a little bit of a heightened awareness, like, oh, okay, we got to, keep the ship going here. And I
Yeah,
think a
you're the
lot of it
mom.
had
You
to
just gotta
do,
hold it down.
I've got to hold it down. And I feel like there was parts of me that was missing the security of the dad. And so when you have this lack of security of the dad, there's more fear that shows up. And so I've been kind of working with that as well, just being able to see like, okay, your fear is coming up. You did lack this. Can you put in, using my mind, what would that ideal energetic father be to me? And so working with that. Well, the ideal energetic father would have been versus like what I received. So, playing in that realm and understanding more, it's like I can see it and what am I going to do in that moment? And I can kind of shift that little moments that are coming up for me. But it's a work in progress and I think it will be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For years to come, probably the rest of your life,
Yeah.
to be honest. How would you deal or how do you deal with setbacks in your trauma recovery?
Um, it's a good question.
Like, say someone has put in so much work to target maybe abandonment and rejection,
Yeah.
and then it gets brought up again in the future, and you're like, damn it, I just did all this work, and now you feel like you're back at square one. Like, how do you deal with that?
You know what's so interesting? Like I've seen that my whole career with acupuncture and all of this. Like I've never seen healing just be like it goes up and then it goes down and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up and goes down. So I've always kind of felt and known that it has that like trajectory where you're going to have these moments that you feel good and then you're going to fall back and then you're going to have moments that you feel good. And so what I like to call it is the rubber band effect. Like how quickly can you get back? Right. So you're going to get pulled out and then
Yes.
how do you get back to your center? And you're going to go out, is it going to be 4 days? Is it 2 days now? Is it a couple hours? Like really kind of working on what that rubber band effect is to get you back to your center.
Right. So when you have those good days, how do you celebrate those wins?
Just with happiness, I guess, I think it's really important for me, and I guess everyone's different, but when I feel really good and I'm in really good alignment with my children, that's a good day for me. When I've been able to have the patience that my little one needs and have the patience to just mother really well, then that's a good day. And I think that varies for everybody, right? Everyone will have what their own good day is. But for me, it's like when I feel grounded, present, and just loving those my daughters.
What do you do to get grounded personally?
I do a lot of mental processing, right? So that process of understanding my mind, so that's continually going. But then I also live in Crestview, which is the most gorgeous little mountain town. I live literally in the womb of Pachamama. So I go outside and there's just gorgeous trails to hike. We live in a very, very beautiful place and that feeds my soul. And this place feeds my soul. And the community here feeds my soul.
Same. I mean, Salt Lake City, it's just we're 25 minutes away from the mountains. So if I'm having like a stressful day or I'm triggered, I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah. Right?
I gotta get out of here.
It's amazing what nature does for me. It is my grounding cord for sure.
Hmm. What do you like to do with your family? You and your kids?
One of the things is we love to be home snuggling. Like we'll watch a
Well,
movie, we'll cook, we'll bake. We live in this beautiful town, so we'll go take the dog for a hike or we'll go ski.
you are a skier?
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome. Me too.
girls
That's
too. Are
awesome.
you? Oh, cool. Where do you go
Oh,
ski?
yeah. I think we're going on like 37 years now skiing. I love it.
Which where do you ski? Park City or where do you ski?
I like to ski Brighton.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't skied that one yet, but when I was growing up, my parents used to take us out to Utah to ski. So we skied Park City and Alta,
Yeah.
Snowbird,
I
Deer
grew
Valley.
up at Delta when I was 3
You
years old in ski
did?
school. Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's so cool.
But I've never skied Colorado, and I've got to put that on my list. I'm gonna do it.
You're right. Well, there you go. Now you have a connection in Crested Butte. Reach out to me.
Awesome. I love that.
Mm.
What are some tools and resources that you would give to others that are feeling stuck? Because I know at a point I was stuck. Maybe you were stuck. I don't know, but we're just kind of like, I'm hurting so bad. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to?
Yeah. So because I'm a psychedelic facilitator, I often talk to people in those realms and those worlds of understanding, are they interested in doing psychedelic work? And if they are, then, the power that each one of these has to offer. So if someone, for instance, wants to do psychedelic work, but they're on SSRIs, then ketamine is going to be an option for them. Or microdosing with the psilocybin is going to be an option for them. If people are like, oh, I'm just nervous and I don't know what to do yet, then oftentimes we'll start with microdosing psilocybin. And with that too, like it's so individual and it's not one capsule for everybody. Like 25 milligrams for one person, 75 for the next. So it's really important how, having that guidance and holding their hand while they find that right substance. Because right now you get a lot of high dosages and microdosing, and you take one and you have all these feelings come up to the surface and you're like, wait, that's way too much. So
Yeah.
really guiding people and like allowing them to fit into that, to move into that space slowly. But the work I work with psychedelics, so that's going to be where my initial support system is like, okay, I'll think in those terms. What could be the best psychedelic to help people feel better?
What are your thoughts and opinions on pharmaceuticals versus the industry that you're in?
I feel like the psychedelics get through stuff so much faster. And
Okay,
then,
that's what I was just gonna ask you. Yep.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I also like let people know like it's not a one and done. Like we're depending on what the transformation is that we're seeking, where are we wanting to go, then we kind of put in a protocol. It's not like you're going to have this one session and your life is going to be better. No, it's like, okay, let's get this one session. Let's start opening up those layers. Let's start really building those legs and how you want to feel on that foundation and allow that, we're thinking 6 months to a year of really transforming people's lives. And that's what we're in the business of doing, is transforming people's lives, helping them feel
Exactly.
better.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of being on an antidepressant for the rest of your life. I know
Just
there's
keep
other
breathing.
possibilities of help out there. I know there is.
Yeah.
But
I love this
hey,
field
they
and I'm
gotta make
working.
their money somehow, right?
Right. What blows my mind is like someone goes on an antidepressant because their mom passed away like 20 years ago. And I'm like, okay, wait, but that was 20
Yeah,
years ago. Like we resourced by then now, right? Like it's
right.
amazing. We just like put them on there and then they just leave them on there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. Well, if they knew about what you do and, the community, they would lose money, right?
Right. So they definitely keep us on the low down. But what I do is I work with people online. I found like Zoom is such a powerful way to work with people. And I live in this teeny little mountain town. It's been such a great way to reach women across the country, and I've
Mhm.
actually done one in Australia and in England. And so being able to work with these substances on Zoom has been really powerful too, because then I'm not just in my little town and you got to come to me. It's like, no, we can do a lot of beautiful work wherever you are.
How do you get the certain pharmaceuticals to them if they're over the country or in a different state? Where do they
So in
go?
state, I have a supplier that does medical grade substances. Well, actually, here's two things. With the ketamine, you do need to get a medical clearance. So I have providers that my clients can go to, and they'll get a medical clearance, and then they'll send the ketamine to their house in lozenges. And then for the MDMA sessions, we have a provider who does medical grade MDMA, and they're sent directly to their house as well.
Awesome.
Hmm.
That's amazing. I'm so grateful for your knowledge, and I'm sure my audience is as well. And just probably sparked a whole bunch of curiosity. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you
thank you
so
so much,
much.
Sylvia, for being here today. It's been a
I really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Okay.
that's all we have for you guys today. Remember, your journey to healing starts with understanding. Stay strong and stay informed. Until next time, keep riding the waves of transformation with us. I'm your host, Tasha. Have the most wonderful day. Thanks
Thanks.
again, Sylvia. Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks.
For more information, you can visit Sylvia at welldosedwellness.com and her Instagram page at welldosedwellness. For more information on how to reach me, you can visit deepwavescoaching.com and on my socials at Deep Waves Life Coaching.